Welcome to Caregiving Club On Air. This podcast is dedicated to the millions of family caregivers who want wellness tips and self-care solutions, who seek expert advice, and who want news about healthy aging and how to create well home design in our forever homes. I'm Sherri Snelling, a corporate gerontologist, author, and educator, a TV interviewer, host, and news commentator. I'm joining you from Southern California, where our interviews and news take us all across the country to explore the many ways to help you on your caregiving journey and to lift you up here at Caregiving Club On Air. Welcome to Caregiving Club On Air. I'm your host, Sherri Snelling, a corporate gerontologist, author, and CEO of the Caregiving Club. So on this May episode, we're really going to be focusing on Older Americans Month, but also May is National Home Improvement and Home Modification Month. And we have the perfect guest for this particular episode. His name is Sean Fitzgerald. He is the president of TruBlue Ally. And you're going to find out a whole lot more about what TruBlue Ally does and how it helps both older adults and family caregivers who want to keep older loved ones in their homes as long and safe and independently and happy as possible. And, in my Me Time Monday book, I wrote about the 7 wellness elements that give us that balance and joy in life. And one of those elements is environmental wellness. And the way that I look and describe environmental wellness is really the spaces in which we live, primarily our homes, and how can we now look at them not just from universal design perspective or safety and accessibility, which are all vital, and it's where we have been focused a lot, but really more of what we're now evolving into, which is that neuro design, which is now the theme for my next book coming up called The Snug Home. But it's really important for us to recognize that our home environments play a really vital role in both our physical and our emotional and mental health. And, we talk a lot about what that means, but one piece of that is, as we think about, preventing chronic illness, right? We have to do certain things, move more, eat maybe a little bit better or differently, be social, all these things that we're told will help prevent, hopefully, certain diseases and things as we age. We need to look at our homes in the same way. How do we prevent our homes from not keeping up with us, let's say, as we age? Because we do know we need to modify things. We've got to change things every decade, starting at about age 40. Whether it's eyesight, hearing, mobility issues, arthritis, osteoporosis, medications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As we age, those are going to then create certain situations in which our homes now need to change and adapt to kind of keep pace with us. And I also wrote about that in Me Time Monday as well. A lot of the homes out there, particularly, if your loved one has been living in their family home now for 40 plus, let's say, years or even longer, a good majority of the homes out there were built in the 70s and the 80s. That's a long time ago. And what that means is that, less than 1% have any kind of universal design, which is the safety accessibility part of it. And very few, of course, have the neuro design built in that we're now looking at for more of that emotional, mental health connection, homes as sanctuary type things. But we call them Peter Pan homes or Peter Pan housing. And we have to shift that now to make sure that those homes, were built for people who will never grow old. Well, now we have to shift to these homes need to be modified for people who are growing older. And that's why this conversation with Sean Fitzgerald is so important. So without further ado, here is my great conversation with Sean Fitzgerald, the president of TruBlue Ally. So as I mentioned, I am so thrilled to have our next guest on this episode, particularly because, as we know, May is Older Americans Month, but May is also Home Modification Month. And our guest for today is Sean Fitzgerald, who is the president of TruBlue Ally. You're going to learn all about what they do, but Sean, welcome to Caregiving Club On Air.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, we're so thrilled to have you. And as I mentioned to you, the first thing we always ask all of our guests is, where are we talking to you from today?
Yeah, I'm here in Cincinnati, Ohio. This is where our home offices are. So, great Midwest town.
Yeah, the great state. I have to say, my one of my grandparents is from Ohio, so love Ohio, and it's the Buckeye State, right? Do I get that right?
What's that?
It's the Buckeye State,
It
the
is
Ohio.
yes, the Buckeye State.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, TruBlue Ally is really interesting, and I think you guys have done such a tremendous job in this whole space of not just home modification in general, but really specifically targeting the older adults that we know want to stay living in their homes as long and safely as possible. So tell us a little bit about all the different services that you have, but specifically those that are going to help that older adult population.
Yeah, when there's so many people that are trying to help their loved ones age in place, and I was in senior care for a little bit, and there's a lot of solutions for the care of the individual. But one of the things that we identified years ago was in order to age in place, you got to address the home. And that's where TruBlue really comes in, because we take a full holistic approach to it. So, at our core, we're kind of, classified as home maintenance repair, but we do everything from light maintenance repair to light senior modifications all the way up to full senior modifications. And I think what makes us unique too is that we look at it from a long-term perspective, because getting your home set up properly with modification and so forth is just one step. It's the ongoing maintenance and making sure that the home is being well maintained, I believe, is going to be the biggest impact on preventing falls. And so with TruBlue and how we look at it, we have a three-step aging in place process where we do home safety assessments and make our recommendations on what the home should be done. We can do those modifications. And then lastly, which I think is the biggest one, is our maintenance packages, where we can come in on a regular basis and ensure that the home's being well maintained, which I think is one of the things that leads to so many falls. Is either seniors are doing things they shouldn't be doing when it comes to home maintenance, or worse, they're not doing anything. And, if there's a light bulb out, that could lead to visual problems and potential fall hazards. So, we look at it as like kind of working with the industry as a solution, and really addressing the home environment first, and making sure that stays well maintained.
Well, I love that you bring that kind of holistic package. I think one of the things that a lot of family caregivers out there and older adults don't realize is that, as you said, as you get older, you have to have your home adapt to accommodate all those needs that you have, both safety wise and then also just, sanctuary wise, the comfort of home. We're now starting to speak about things like neurodesign in the home that help with more of that emotional health side. But when we go to home modification, I think that a lot of families, we know about like grab bars in the shower, right? Certain things like that. But there are so many other things. And I think what I want to make sure our audience knows is that a lot of these things really do require what I would call a specialist. So it's not just a handyman that you might be able to get off some other, app or whatever. This person really needs to understand universal design and ADA and be able to help you appropriately guide you to the right things versus just calling someone up and saying, "Hey, can you put grab bars in the shower?" And I've seen horror stories where good meaning handymen come to do it, but they don't ground those things properly and they come right out of the wall. So talk a little bit about the expertise and maybe more of the training that a lot of your folks go through.
Yeah, one of the things that really focused at TruBlue was that we really want to have a higher standard of service. And so, coming from the senior care industry, there's a lot of the medical industry and the care industry is really focused on high standards, right? And you would never send a caregiver into somebody's home that wasn't screened, background checked, or properly insured. So our model's the same way. So our franchisees are independently owned and operated, and they have their employees who are their employees. They're screened, they're background checked, and they're insured. Our franchisees are also CAP certified, which is certified aging in place specialists. So they're certified and educated in understanding how to help people age in place successfully. So when we do these home safety assessments, they've been certified in it. So there's that added level of standards, which, when in someone's homes, probably the most vulnerable place there is, especially for seniors. So who's coming into that home is really important for caregivers and their loved ones, and family members want to make sure that these people have been properly trained and vetted and so forth. And that's what we really kind of differentiates us compared to someone just calling another handyman. The fact that they're trained and they're certified in it, we look at things differently, not just project based, like put a grab bar here. It's like where to put the grab bar and what other things should you be looking at as it relates to home safety. And with our home safety assessment, we take a full approach, looking at it from outside the home, like walking into the home. So many falls occur just in those walkways, and especially if there's steps involved or landscaping. We go all the way into the home and go room by room and look at potential fall hazards and make recommendations on that. And some of it is just maintenance. Some of it could be just, taking clutter away. Some of it could be senior modifications all the way to bathroom remodels. So it really depends on, the individual, the home, and, working through those to try to make it as safe as we possibly can. So we just have better outcomes for seniors who age in place.
Well, and again, I think that's kind of what sets you guys apart, is that you're not there just to do the physical labor of making a modification or something, putting something up. I think you can tell us more, but I think it's a 75, questionnaire, whatever, on your assessment. What I love about it is, often, and we talk about it on this podcast all the time, caregivers don't know what we don't know. We don't even sometimes know what questions to ask or what things are out there that are available to us. We might start with, we need a grab bar, but if you come and go through the assessment with the family, all of a sudden you realize there's 10 other things that you didn't even think about that need to be done. So, tell us, one of the things I'm curious about is when you do get, your services are secured, do you have the older adults that are living there call you mostly, or is it the older, like, daughter or son who's calling you to come out to help their mom and dad with some of the things in the home? Does it skew one way or the other?
Yeah, it skews heavily the adult children. And I learned that in the senior care industry, because as people age, they don't want to ask for help for multiple reasons. Number one, they just don't want to realize that they're declining themselves. So they kind of want to resist that. But I think the biggest driver of them not reaching out is that they don't want to be a burden on their families. And so by educating them and saying, hey, by having someone like TruBlue come in and make sure the home environment's safe, we want you to stay in your home as long as you possibly can. And by doing this, we can help with that. And so once they kind of understand and learn what we're about and what we're trying to do, they actually love it, because everybody has those to-do list chores that need to be done around the home. And with our model, it's like there's nothing too small. And so that's where I think seniors really struggle with is, wanting to move furniture around the house or things that you would not think is home maintenance, but seniors need help with, in the springtime, bringing out stuff from the shed onto the front porch. They rely on their family members to do that. And I think what makes us a great option for family members and caregivers is that, it's hard enough to keep up with your own home, let alone your mom or dad's. And so, having a solution like this where we can come out and take care of the maintenance and the little things to ensure things are safe. My mother-in-law lives down the road from me, so I can help her out anytime I want to, but my father lives in Pennsylvania, so I can't help him. And so having solutions like this, I think in the future is going to help so many people age in place successfully. And, it all starts with the home. If the home environment is not well suited and well maintained, the likelihood of them staying in their homes longer is going to go down, and, falls are going to go up. And that's where we feel very strongly that our maintenance packages and our complete holistic approach is going to be really impactful in preventing falls.
Yeah, and you've mentioned falls a few times, and it is such the big worry. I think those of us who at least work in this space know that 1 in 4 adults over the age of 65 will have a fall at home. About 3 million seniors end up in the ER every year, and of course, you can have multiple falls, and then that is going to definitely hurt your mortality and all of that. So falls really are, I think, the big thing that we look at to prevent. we're talking about older adults, and some of our audience might think we're talking about people maybe in their late 70s, 80s, or 90s. I got to tell you, I'm in my 60s, and I even got on a chair the other day to change the batteries in my smokeless pipes, and I got really dizzy. And I thought, I probably shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
I did it across somebody, so it's not just the older. It's those of us who are getting to a certain age where maybe you don't want to be on that ladder right now.
Yeah, you make a great point, because most of our clients are probably in that 55 to 80 range. Most people who are in need of care and senior modifications are typically much older, like 83 plus, right? So we're seeing a lot more clients that aren't in need of care or even modifications. They need help around the home. And sadly, I have personal experience. My father-in-law was 67 years old, and he fell down the steps and broke his neck, became quadriplegic, and then passed away from those complications. So that's where a lot of my passion comes from, because we weren't even remotely thinking about senior modifications or anything like that. But when we went back and looked and realized that there's stuff that we could have done around the home just to make it safer for people, especially because he had knee replacement and things like that. So very simple things that, I wish I knew more about. And that's what I really am passionate about with TruBlue is to help educate people and get the word out about how to prepare for these things, because so many people are reactive when it comes to this and have sad stories like I do. And the more we can get it out and more people can get educated, a lot of the stuff is pretty simple. It's visibility and having proper handrails near stairs. It's just have an understanding of where falls commonly occur and try to address those as much as you can to be more help to prevent these situations than just being reactive. And so much of this industry is the medical community educating the adult children because their loved ones had fallen and repeatedly, and then they're begging them, you need to do something. And if we can get ahead of that, we can really impact so many lives. And that's what makes, I think, TruBlue so special to be a part of, and I'm so proud to be the president of it, is because of the impact that we can have on people's lives in the community.
Absolutely. And you touch upon, again, I'll go back to one of the things I want the audience to really resonate with is that this isn't just handyman service. You really are like consultants, because you're going through your assessment, you're making recommendations, you're helping to educate other adults and the family members on, well, let's take a look at this too, or maybe this lighting over here isn't quite as good, let's take a look at that. Some of those things that are so critical that you don't think about. And also I want our audience to know you guys are really a complimentary service to anyone being discharged from the hospital. Maybe after a fall or a certain diagnosis, things have to change at home. And so what are the things that might need to be done? And that's where you guys can come in and help with that. Let me ask you this. What are maybe the top 3 things that you mostly tend to when you're getting called by older adults or family caregivers?
Yeah, everybody kind of goes to, and it's getting more widely known that the bathroom is a big issue for when it comes to falls. So that's the number one, and it's typically grab bars. We're starting to see more products that are out there that help with getting it in and out of the bathtub or the shower. And so it used to be, if you had a bathtub, you had to completely pull the tub out and redo it. And that could be pretty expensive to have a new shower put in. But there's products out there where you can take an existing tub and cut it out so that tub then becomes a walkout tub shower, and it's a fraction of the cost. So there's a lot of really neat products that are coming out. But I think grab bars, handheld showers, shower heads, seats in the showers, those type of things. So the most common are going to be in the bathroom, and where so many of these falls occur. But there's so many things that are cool products that are coming out from helping people with those type of situations. And if it really comes down to it, is like visibility is a big issue when it comes to seniors, because it's balance is their balance starts to go, their vision starts to go, And so having good lighting is really key. So motion censored lighting is another inexpensive and great thing to have from seniors. So when they walk into a room, they can easily, the lights go on, or at least have light switches that are larger so they can find those light switches so they can see where they're going and prevent falls. So there's a lot of simple things that we can do to make the home environment safer for seniors, and they're not always really expensive. It's just a lot of it's common sense, and you just got to kind of think of it from that mindset of someone who's impaired a little bit visually and their balance is not quite there. So fall hazards, trip hazards, and things like that, and just walking through a home and ensuring that they can see what's in front of them. And clutter is a big one. That's the most simple senior safety product out there, is just pick up the clutter and the rugs that are out there to help prevent falls.
Absolutely. And it's funny because when I've written about this, I'm actually working on my third book, which is going to be all about kind of how to design our homes so that they're not only safe and accessible, but also kind of nourish our sense of, feeling good and happiness and all that. And I think one of the things that we think about is in health, we know about prevention, right? Eat well, move more, do certain things that might hopefully reduce your risk as you age to develop chronic illness. But we have to think about our homes in the same way. Our eyesight starts going in our 40s, sometimes our 30s. Our hearing maybe starts going in our 50s. So every decade, there are certain small things that maybe you can think about with your home, so that it doesn't all just fall, ooh, boom, okay, I'm 80 years old and now I've got like 25 things I've got to fix in my house, right?
Yeah, and sadly, what happens is they wait till they're so much older, and then it becomes very, like, if the whole bathroom needs to be redone and all these senior modifications, and then that's when families start thinking, well, let's put them in an assisted living facility or a nursing home, and then they look into the cost of that, and it is so much more affordable to age in place correctly, and it's what seniors want, and quite honestly, it's what they deserve. And I think as a society, we need to do a better job at making sure that people have that as an option. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be forced to, because there's just not going to be enough assisted living facilities and nursing homes. People are not going to, they can't afford it today. So they're being forced to age in place. And so, as a society, we have to address that issue, because it's only going to get worse, especially when people, with the advancement of medical technology, people are going to live longer, and it's great news. When I was a kid, it was the average lifespan was like early 70s. Now it's approaching late 70s, and just think of another 10 years what that's going to do. That's a whole nother level of population that we're going to have to deal with, and we really need to, as a society, and look at how we're going to address this, because we're going to be faced with it.
Yeah, one of the statistics when I go out there and talk to different groups and things, one of the statistics I have on longevity is that 24% of women who are 60 years old today will live to 100.
Wow.
We're all, I would put myself in that category. I'm not sure I'm ready for,
Yeah.
but it's something, to your point. We are living longer, and we have to think about what are those things that are going to help us, stay safe, whatever. Going back to, we've talked about, you do the assessment and kind of consult on things. You obviously do the services that are needed. And by the way, you mentioned grab bars and things, and you and I both know they're so beautiful now. I mean, it's not your grandmother's grab bar from the nursing home, right? Things are really starting to look design friendly. But then you also have this kind of seasonal maintenance plan, which I think is super great for older adults who don't always remember, oh yeah, I should have, the air conditioning or the heating looked at or whatever. Talk a little bit about that plan or those services you provide.
Yeah, we have just like simple routine maintenance that needs to be around the home, and as simple as changing air filters, to changing light bulbs and lighting, to making sure that the smoke detector batteries are changed. So we have packages where we can come in monthly and do to-do list chores, right? So it's like someone has a list of things that they want done, and furniture moved, or decorations coming out for the holidays or what have you, for those to-do list chores, or our basic package where we come out each quarter and just do prescriptive routine maintenance. And so, making sure that the doors are opening and shut easily. Like I said, all those type of things where we go room to room to ensure that everything is functioning properly, like you need to in your home. And some of it could be, annually drain the hot water heater to make sure that's functioning properly. So there's safety components, but there's also just components of it that's going to save them money if they do these, kind of routine maintenance. And most people don't, and it leads to major repairs. And unfortunately for seniors, it could lead to major repairs or even falls. And so, looking at it from that perspective of making sure that the doors open and close properly for a senior now becomes a fall hazard, because if the door is not hard to open or what have you, and there needs to be adjustments made, those are the type of things that we do. So we kind of keep it, we have different packages, but it's really, those simple things, that to-do list chores, I think, is the one that really helps people the most.
So tell us a little bit about those packages, because I know, people are thinking, okay, this sounds so great. How much does it cost? And are any of the things that you do covered under maybe like a Medicare plan or some, some other kind of benefit where you could help get some relief financially?
Yeah, unfortunately, there isn't much under Medicare. What we're starting to see, which is really exciting, is that you're seeing Medicare Advantage, or more importantly, Medicaid waivers, where some of the states are now actually covering senior modifications as part of their Medicaid program. So states like California and Texas, the really exciting thing about it is they're being proactive. And so historically, it would require needs-based, like a doctor needs, write a prescription. These states now have programs where it's age-based. So the minute you turn 65, you're eligible for some modifications covered for under Medicaid. And so I think that trend is going to continue. It's going to be helpful and, very beneficial for everyone who's trying to age in place. But right now it's kind of state driven, and we're starting to see it. There's other programs like veterans programs that cover a lot of this for our seniors. And then there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that have, help with funding this. So if you're aging in place senior and you need help from a financial standpoint, definitely, do some research and look at your council on aging within your community, because they can point you in the direction of some of these organizations that have grants or programs that help pay for this.
This is fantastic. So, all of this I think is so critical. It's really, we do have to, as you said, we have to kind of adjust our thinking as we, hit a certain age. We got to start thinking about keeping our homes, maintained, so that we can continue living in them safely. Is there anything else we didn't touch upon that you feel is important for our audience to know?
I don't think so. I think really, the message I hope they get is that don't wait. Be proactive. And if they're, 55 or plus, because I'm in that category too. So it's scary for me to say this, but it's time to start thinking, like you were just saying. I was on a ladder the other day and I was like, whoa, I don't have the balance like I used to. So, start thinking about that and start preparing and start, looking into ways to make sure that if you are a caregiver and you have a loved one that's aging in place, start being proactive, looking at how to make sure the home environment is safe. At the very least, it's just a lot of it is just, use common sense and go into the home and walk around and look for potential falls. And if you need a professional, we would be more than happy. Occupational therapists will do senior home safety assessments as well. So there's a lot of options that are out there. And, again, don't wait until there's an event, because unfortunately, like my family, it was, there was no, it was bad. Right. So
Yeah.
you don't wait, and
Yeah.
start doing that stuff today. And, I think, we can really help people, age in place and live longer in their homes where they deserve to be.
Absolutely. And I will also just add this, that I think is, again, so great, because you guys come with not just the service background, but the expertise. And one of the things that we know is sometimes, as adult children, and we want our parents to do certain things, or, we make certain suggestions and it may not go over so well. It's always great to have somebody like you come in and you're the expert and they will listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So just saying, hey, mom, maybe let's just get an assessment done. Let's, these guys are experts. Let's have them in. That's going to take a lot of burden off the family caregiver going, oh, we need to get this done or whatever. So I just would say that too, that you're offering that kind of service that really helps out the family caregiver.
Yeah, and that's why we're TruBlue Home Ally, is because we really want to be the ally and to the senior, but also the adult children. Because I put myself like my dad and my mother-in-law. It's like if I call my dad up and say, hey, you need to get the front door fixed, call a handyman. He'll just be like, oh, it's fine. But if I have the relationship and I say, hey, I've got a person coming out on Thursday, I'm going to get that door fixed and we're going to send somebody out. So you could be proactive, even dealing with your loved ones, because as seniors, they're going to like, they don't want to be a burden. They don't want to feel like they're wasting money. And so being proactive and having a plan in place and having conversations with your loved ones that, hey, we're doing this because we want the environment to be safe. And if you want to stay in the home, we want you in the home, let us do these things.
Absolutely. Well, it's just been wonderful talking to you. So many great, pieces of information here, I think, that hopefully our audience can take away. Tell us where they can find TruBlue Ally.
Yeah, you can search for TruBlue Home Ally, and our URL is TruBlueAlly.com.
Fantastic. Well, again, Sean, thanks so much for being on the podcast. So much great information for us to think about with our homes.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. A reminder, you can find more information in my book on caregiving, healthy aging, brain health, and how wellness is built on balance. Check out Me Time Monday, the weekly wellness plan to find balance and joy for a busy life, or visit MeTimeMonday.com or CaregivingClub.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Caregiving Club On Air. Please hit the subscribe button to listen to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, SiriusXM, iHeartRadio, Pandora, as well as other listening channels. And subscribe to our Caregiving Club YouTube channel to watch the podcast and find all of our other educational caregiving content. Remember to check out the resources and article links for this episode on our episode guide page, caregivingclub.com. Just hit the podcast tab. And email us with any comments or questions at caregivingclub.com. Thank you again for listening and watching. Take care and stay well.